Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to create one screen effect on the pages. These are pages that have a section on full high, and when you're scrolling down, the section is being changed. Also, I'm going to talk about an effect when everything is displayed on one screen while scrolling. Moreover, I'm going to show you how to create the horizontal scroller. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about how to create navigation for your page in the form of such tabs, and when clicking on them, scroll to a specific section is happening. So first we create a block, it's called page navigation. So we add it, and here we have a blank block. So we need to add inside a container or a block row. The simplest way to do this is by clicking here on Add New. So as we can see, now we have one empty section here, and it's stretched to full high. And also here on the right side, we have such a navigation. In the editor, it doesn't work. It's added in order for you to make your own design, since here there are a lot of options that you can use, and let's now check them all. For clarity, I have added here several sections. By the way, you can download them from the library. They are all free of charge. And here, as we can see, I have 5 sections, 5 row blocks, and each row contains its own elements. So the main thing here is to understand that page navigation automatically calculates only row blocks and containers. This means that this block should be inside page navigation so that they can work properly. Next, we will create a design for our navigation. By default, it is located here on the right side. You can set different align or type here if you want. Also, here we can set the size of our navigation, the space between the positions, and also there are many other options available. So, for example, I will change its size. Like this. So we have such lines here. A very important option here is the position. By default, it will be displayed in the center of the screen on the right side. So basically, this block creates a separate scroll on our page, and when we scroll down, as we can see, the navigation is changing. And by clicking, you can go to the section that you want. Such navigations are most often created on landing pages. So if you want to disable header and footer on the page, here there is a special template called Greenshift Clean Canvas. So if you select it, the header and the footer will be disabled, and you have your sections only left. Also, here there is another template called Scroll Smooth Clean Canvas, and if you select it, the scroll on your page will be very smooth. This option has many built-in effects, and we will talk about them in our next videos. Apart from using a simple navigation by section, you can also select here tabs. This option adds quick links to the desired sections of our page at the top of the page. Here it's very important to make sure that the number of tabs is the same as the number of sections. Now I have 5 sections, so I have to add 2 more tabs so that they are 5 as well. So let's now check how it works. I will disable this option, Scroll Smooth Clean Canvas, and I will select Default Template. Now, as you can see, we have here such links, and when scrolling down, as we can see, there is also a progress bar that is changing as well. When clicking on the tab, it gets you to the specific section. As you can see, the tabs are attached to the top of the page, but since in the theme I have here another attached element, you need to make sure that you have set here a proper value for sticky margin from top. So if I didn't have this header in the theme, I could set here 0, for example, like this. There is one more interesting option. It's called Enable Scroll Snap. This option automatically creates such a slight effect, so when you start scrolling, it automatically gets you to the next section. It makes sense to use this option when each section is set to full width and to full height. So, for example, here, we go to Advanced Options and we set 100 VH for height. And this should be applied to each section. Also, it makes sense to use this option only when you select this template, Greenshift Clean Canvas, so that the header and the footer didn't interfere. Also, there is one more important point. When you have enabled Scroll Snap, a separate scroll for the whole block on the page is created, and if you add an animation here, it will not work. So as you can see, it doesn't work because the scroll of the page itself is tracked and not of the block. But there is a solution here. So you just need to use an animation container. So we click on Transform to Animation Container, and then we will need to add a shift, and then we set 0 for opacity. And here in Trigger Options, we have Advanced Scroll Options, and we need to enable Is Page Nav Block, like this. So let's now check it. And we can see that now everything is working properly. Let's move further to the next block, which is called Horizontal Section Scroll. It is very similar to the previous block. You first add a block and you need to add inside a row block or a container. You can do this from here as well. There are buttons Add New Row and Add New Container. But they act a little differently. So for example, we'll add a row block first, and let's add one more. So we have 2 row blocks here. By default, the pages in Editor are not displayed as usual. It's because this way it's easier to add the content. So for example, we will add different backgrounds from here. So let's choose red for the first one. And let's say, for example, black for the second one, like this. If you want to check how it's going to be displayed in horizontal position, there is a button here called Preview Horizontal, and if we enable it, this is how it works. But on the website, this scroll is working a bit differently. Here there is a special scroll which is used, and when you scroll down, it automatically gets you to a horizontal scroll. But at the same time, the user continues scrolling down. So the user is scrolling down, but actually a scroll from left to right is happening. And this is very interesting designer effect, which is now very popular on many websites. A horizontal scroll can be added not only as a section, but also as any element. So for example, Here I have added a huge block that has very big width and a text, and while scrolling we get a very interesting animation. So I will show you now how I made this, but let's first remove the row blocks that I created before. So I will add a container here. By default, we have 100 VH for height and 100 VH for width. But we can customize this. So let's set, for example, 5000 pixels for width, like this. Then I will enable Preview Horizontal from here. I will choose a background, for example, this one. And also I will add a text. So I add an advanced heading and I will make its size bigger, like this. And in additional letter options, I will enable no wrap so that the text was on one line. And we get such a big section, and this is how it works. There is one more feature here. The scroll will be automatically calculated and it will be equal to the size of the biggest element. So since we have set 5000, the letters are a bit bigger than the container. So we can either make smaller the letters, or the other option is if you go to General Options, here in Spacing and then Overflow there is Hidden. Here we have an additional option. We can set a custom scroll end. By default it is calculated automatically, so in this case it's 5000 because our container is 5000 pixels. Also, there is an important option which is called Pause on End. Let's now check our scroll. As we can see, once it ends, it automatically rebuilds to the usual horizontal scroll, but this is not always helpful. And for example, if you want to display some products, for you it's very important that the user lingers on the screen and that he could click on a button or look at the product for a longer time. So for this reason, here there is an option which is called Pause on End. So let's set, for example, 70 here, like this. And let's now check how it works. So I'm scrolling down, but at the end the scroll is paused and it remains attached. Horizontal block, as the previous block, creates its own scroll, so if you add an animation, you need to enable a special option, and I will now show you an example. So I add an animation container inside our container, and I will add an image inside. So let's choose, for example, this one, and let's now make it smaller. And now I will set an absolute position in the animation container. We can do this either in Advanced Options, or we can click on Enable Position Drag here, and then I can move it like this. Once I put it on the right position, I can click on Save Current Position here. Now I want the headphones to appear while scrolling. So to do this, I need to go to General Options, and then here I need to set 0.1 for scale. So let's now check how it works. As we can see, the block is already set. It's because by default vertical position is tracked, but since our block is already in vertical position, in the right place for scrolling, its animation is already set, and to fix that, we need to go to the animation container, and then we need to enable one special option, which is called horizontal scroll here. Now in this block the scroll will be horizontal and not vertical. So let's now check how it works. As we can see, now the animation starts happening once the horizontal scroll reaches the element. Also, as you maybe remember from our previous videos, we have talked about different custom positions of trigger start and trigger end. And here it's important to know that if we have set usually top 80% for trigger start, this means that once the top part of the object gets to 80% of the screen, the animation starts happening. But when we have a horizontal scroll, there is no need to track the top part of the block, so we will track the left part. So this means that when the left part of the object gets to 80% of the scroll vertically, then the animation is happening. This works when horizontal scroll is enabled. We can set, for example, here 50%. This means that the animation will start happening when the object is in the center of the screen. So let's now check this. So we start scrolling, our object is here, and once it gets to the center of the screen, the animation is happening. So let's now check even more complex example. Here we have several effects at the same time. There is a pin scroll, an animation, overlaying different parts of the image one on top of the other, and so on. So let's now check how to create this. So first we need to create a container. Then we set a full width and height. Then we set a flex box, and also we can choose a line from here. Then I will add an animation container and I will add an image inside. So let's choose, for example, this one. Now let's make it smaller. And now I will transform the container to pin scroll. Now I will set a full width. So by default, the pin scroll has a trigger start top 15%. This means that once we get 15% of the screen, the block is getting attached, and this pin lasts 350 pixels. So now we need to change our trigger start and trigger end. Here for trigger start, we will set top, like this. This means that once we get to the top of the screen, our block is getting attached. We will set max for the trigger end. Like this. This means that the position of the scroll will be automatically calculated and the block will be attached until the end of the page. Now we will duplicate this block. Then we set again full width. And then we will change the image. So let's choose this one. Now we do not have the overlaying of one pin scroll on another because by default they do not work together. So we need to enable a special option which is called Enable Overflow on Pinned Item. Once we enable it, as we can see, one pin is superimposed on another one. So we'll enable this option both for the first pin and for the second one. And this is the effect that we get. We will set also Greenshift Clean Canvas, and now let's check how it works on the website. So here we have two small issues. So as you can see, there is a kind of a small jumping. Actually, this is not a mistake. The browser is just working this way. So once you get to the end of the page, there is a small return back. But we can disable this. So to do this, we need to go to the options, and here we need to enable two options. The first one is Anticipate Pin. Use this only if you have glitch on pin start. We'll enable it for our first scroll, so this way the jumping will be removed. And the second option that we will disable is Disable Over Scroll Bounce. Let's now check how it works. As you can see, now the scroll is much smoother, and even if we continue scrolling down, everything works well. Additionally, I have added here also interpolation. We have talked about interpolation in our first video, how to do this. So let's add this in our second scroll. So we select the animation container and we set 70 for rotation. Then we set top 60% for trigger start. Like this. And plus equal to 600 for trigger end. We set 1 for interpolation, and this is the effect that we get. I have also added a text here. So I have talked about how to add text on pin scroll in one of our previous videos. And here I would like to add one more interesting effect. Here we have our pin scroll blocks, which are also containers. So there is Z-index option here. In all blocks, I can choose the order of their overlay. So I have Z-index 1 for the first block. Then I have 2 for the second one, 3 for the third one, and I have 0 for the last one. And it pulls up under the previous blocks. I have added pin scroll as well. And one more helpful option is preview mode. It is needed when you have such terrible jumping, so let's disable it. And as you can see in the editor, it doesn't look very well. So when we have added blocks, we'll enable this option. And now everything is working very smooth. So now, if you want to change something inside the block, you need first to disable this option. Then you add the changes, and then enable it back to check how it works. That's all for today. In our next video, we will talk about smooth scrolling and how to create such pages with parallax effect. You can add these effects to already existing pages without changing its structure and adding other blocks. See you in our next video.